is being recorded by ECAT. Audio and video be available for viewing at a later time. Any members of the public who wish to be heard on any item can do so at the time we designate. Raise your hand and put a message in the Q&A box or the chat box. We'll get to you. Just to establish quorum, I just want everyone, we'll take a roll call attendance here. Roy Caulfield's present.
Nate Crossman present.
Ben Carroll present.
Mike Spady present.
Al Benson present.
Excellent. Seeing that we have a quorum, so we will proceed. First up, I do want to welcome Al Benson to the commission, and I appreciate you volunteering your time and experience for us to the commission, and really looking forward to you being part of the team.
Thank you.
First up tonight is a 313 Foundry Street, which is a notice of intent for a proposed house addition, deck replacement, and mitigation. So this is Colin, so that would be Peter.
Yeah, sorry. I know I was letting people in last time. I can't use the mouse.
I'll try and do both.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay, Peter, you're up.
What's up, everybody? Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Awesome. I'll pull up the plan for us. We can confirm we can see that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. For the record, Peter Lyons with Collins Civil Engineering Group, here for notice of intent, representing the homeowner for this residential project. It's as mentioned, we have a small proposed addition off the back of the house, and some mitigation proposed relative to an increase in the existing deck size. It's kind of like an after the fact. The deck's already built, but we are including it into our mitigation calculations for the rest of the project. It's kind of tough to see, but off the back right of the house, this is our proposed addition. We'll basically be working off of the existing bump out on the back. It's relatively small, just extending the right line of the house back a bit. We're not increasing, the bedroom count, the septic flow, or anything like that. Just increasing the living area a little bit. Additionally, with this project, as part of the mitigation, we're proposing to relocate the existing shed that's about, let's say 8 or 10 feet off of wetland flag 10, and locate it to the left of the site outside the 100-foot buffer. The site is in an ACEC, so we are not allowed to increase or add impervious. So to mitigate the increase of the impervious area from the addition, we're basically removing the shed, and we're removing or changing the style of the walkway to go from an impervious to a pervious situation with stone and a slate walkway. We're also doing a removal of a small strip off the end of the existing driveway, again, to help with the impervious versus pervious mitigation calculations as shown on the left side of the plan. The work being done is all in existing lawn. We're not taking down any trees. We have erosion control, the dashed out gray line proposed around the work area, and a series of 7 conservation posts with the new tags shown on the plan. So those basically follow the existing tree line, edge of lawn right around the property.
So Peter, I don't think we're looking at the latest plan.
We're not. This is, I'm actually, I apologize for that. I'm having trouble with my work server. So I pulled this out of the agenda file packet. from you guys, so I don't, if you have
do.
something different.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that are different on the most recent one, so why don't you stop sharing and I'll.
Sure. Yeah, I apologize for that. I thought we had made some changes and I realized halfway through that this wasn't reflecting them. So,
Okay, so we should see that now.
here we go.
So just a couple of changes here is, there's some plantings here back, between 104 and 106.
Yep.
I think we're gonna try and plant 6 bushes there, yet to be determined what species. And I think we also we eliminated that 20 square foot of pavement reduction. We just decided that really wasn't worth the effort there. That we've got some other things that are going on here. The other difference here is that there's a stormwater management situation going on here.
Yep.
Where and there's some details on the plan somewhere. Yeah, down here on the bottom, you're talking about downspout infiltration. So I think those are the main changes here. I think we also extended the erosion control all the way out to the driveway. So, Jen, did I miss anything?
From the office report, I just had 2 other questions, right? So the 8-inch wattle is probably not adequate for being that close to the wetland. I don't remember that being addressed. Peter, do you know if that was enlarged?
I can't move around on this plan. I did not make these revisions, so without looking around,
It's still showing an 8-inch.
yeah, I guess we still show the 8-inch. I guess the question would be if you just want to increase the diameter on that, or if we want to do like a silt fence behind it.
I mean, the diameter should be adequate. And then there's a pipe in the front lawn that was also in the office report that hadn't been addressed yet. Do you know what that pipe is for?
Was it in the front yard, almost
Yep.
near this conservation post?
Correct, yeah.
And their flag too. I believe that's just like an equalizer pipe to help drain the little bit of a low spot down towards the wetlands. It's like a small PVC pipe on the surface of the ground. I believe that's just a pipe that goes towards the wetlands.
I think that's the point.
Yeah, so it's a discharge into the wetland.
I don't think it's a discharge, Jen. Well, maybe it discharges from the lawn into the wet.
Yeah, it's not an equalizer pipe. It's just discharging water into the wetland.
It definitely doesn't come back the other way. It's definitely graded to go into the wetlands. For sure.
Okay. It's taking me forever to make a note here. Peter, you didn't get a DEP file number, did you?
Personally, I have not, and I have not heard anything from my office either.
Okay.
Just one thing, we did get the butter notifications on this, right? Tish?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So just for the record, we have butter notifications. So the other thing here is that there is actually another pipe that goes underneath the driveway that comes out on this side. I can't see where the other end comes from. It's the same size. It's about a 6-inch PVC pipe or so. It's the same size that's over here. This one is definitely draining whatever that low spot into the wetland. It's not an equalizer. It's literally just taking whatever comes into the front yard and taking it down. It's definitely got a pitch to it that goes into the wetland.
Okay, and then we just noted there are 3 areas where compost is being dumped into the wetland. The homeowner was there at the time of the inspection, and I did explain that they would need to remove the compost as part of their project.
Okay.
And that's it for me.
Okay. Any questions from the commission?
Very basic question. What is the distance from the edge of the addition to the wetland? Is that 24 feet or 57?
24 to the wetland, 57 is to the lot line.
That makes more sense.
Anybody else?
None to me. I'm good.
So from Al,
Al
do you
has
have a
his hand
question?
up.
Yeah, I know, I just saw that. Al, you have a question?
Yes, I do. How do I unmute?
No, you're unmuted.
We can hear you.
Just a couple of small questions. The original plot plan for the house showed the bump out 5x6 as an unfinished workroom area. And in the existing diagram, it shows that it looks like it's finished. And it just seems like a dichotomy. The other area is, I question the mulch swing set area just because we don't specify what kind of mulch they'll use, and I wondered if some of that with the dye might be toxic to local animals. So I don't have the answer for that. It's a question. Thank
So
you.
the mulch swing set area is an existing condition. It looks like it's been there probably about 5 or 10 years. So
Well, you don't have a DEP file number, so you would need to continue to the next meeting. And in that time, we can probably get revised plans that show the sediment control being a larger wattle. And the discharge pipes should probably be on the plan as well.
What size for the water?
10 or 12.
So 10 would be sufficient.
It would be. Thank you.
Okay.
So I think a couple things here just is because we're talking about we're inside the no disturb zone here and the ACEC. I think that I'm okay with this given the offset to the area and the increased size of the deck plus this small addition, given that you're moving the shed and taking care of the stormwater, mitigating it in that way, as well as the plantings in the back. Jennifer, do you have any suggestions on what they should be planting back there? It's going to be pretty shady.
Whatever they propose should be something native, and it should probably be something they let us know, the species, the size, and then we already have the number before the next meeting.
Sure.
Anybody have any concerns or other questions so that next time this comes before us, these guys can sort of breeze through here?
Nothing else for me.
Okay, do we have any public comment at 313 Foundry Street? Okay, so seeing none, Peter will continue till, I assume it's the 28th, March 28th.
Yes.
Is that okay with you, Peter?
It is what it is. We'll see you then.
Okay, so motion to continue 313 Foundry to March 28th. I need a second.
Carol, second.
Carol with a second. Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Carol, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Benson, aye.
Beatty, aye.
Ben, did you have another? Al, did you have another question?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so Peter, we'll see you next up. Okay, or next week. Next
Okay.
meeting.
That's all I got for you. We'll see you then. Thank you very much.
Okay, so next up is sorry, my agenda's on another screen. 71 Mill Street. This is a continued hearing for a notice of intent. Who's represent Garrett? Is that right? I assume it's Garrett. Okay, there's Garrett. So last time we were just simply waiting for the DEP number, which we have. We'll reopen the hearing here, but does anybody have any additional questions for Garrett now that we have the DEP number? Please note for the record that we do have a Mullins from Mr. Benson on file. Okay. Any public comment for 71 Mill Street? Garrett, I assume you want us to close.
Yes, please.
You're welcome.
Sorry, for some reason, my video's not working. I'm having issues. I apologize.
I believe it's one of those days.
I think it is.
Motion to close 71 Mill Street. I need a second.
Carol, second.
Caulfield's Carol with a second. Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
Crossman, I.
Benson, I.
Spady, aye.
Al, did you have a question? Your hand came up again.
Sorry.
It's okay. A motion to issue a permit for work and order of conditions for 71 Mill Street.
Spady, second.
Caulfield, Spady, a second. Roll call vote, Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
Crossman, I.
The hand's still.
Slip in Spady, aye. We'll get there.
Al, we need a vote from you, Al.
Benson, I.
Thank you.
Having some technical issues.
Yeah, we already said it was one of those days.
So Garrett's up now, so his started working and yours broke.
Exactly.
Just traded.
Okay, Garrett, we're all set.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So next up is 9 Hobart Way. This is a continuation of a hearing, notice of intent for utility installation. This was continued from 2/7. Al is not eligible to vote on this. I think he can still participate, he just can't vote. And both Nate and I have Mullins on file for this. I missed the last one. Nate missed the one before that. So we have 4 eligible members. Who on the team over here wants to be promoted? If you could just raise your hand or give me some sort of indication. There's like 6 of you here. Okay, so I just promoted Ken Thompson. Or tried to. There we go. We'll bring anybody else up who needs to speak at the time. So but let's just try and keep this.
How's that?
There you go, Ken.
Good evening. I understand we're going to be continued because I didn't get the hard copy in time. But I would like to at least bring up the map. There have been some changes, and I'd like to get the commission's opinion on where we're going with this.
We will do our best.
There's been some changes. Mr. Taylor sold his property at number 5, and we have some new homeowners there. We met with them, and they've granted us an easement so we can straighten out the driveway a little bit.
Okay.
Do you want me to just?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. I don't know which plan you want to bring up, so it's better you bring it up.
We're doing an open. Anyways, here. This is one of the other ones. This is a mitigation I was going to propose, but can you see this?
Yep.
Okay. See this black line here?
Yes.
So we have no impact. We have no impact within the easement. We're going to put a 4-foot wall up, grade to it, and basically down on this portion right here, the neighbors, in general purposes, general understanding that we're in agreement that they're going to grant us an easement after we finalize a landscape plan with them. But basically what we've done is all the grading is outside the easement, so there's no impacts inside the easement, and we can get to the driveway now. All the impacts, I mean, we're under 5,000, we're at 3,000 for riverfront, 3,000 for, I gotta read them myself. I got them on the, off this side here. 1,300 for the wetland buffer, 3,260 for 100 to 200 foot riverfront, and 3,002 for the 50 to 100 floodplain buffer. We're outside of 0 to 50 buffer, wetland buffer, 100 foot perennial river, 200 foot perennial river, 100 foot intermittent stream riverfront. So those are our impacts. We got the numbers way down by doing all this work to get out of the easement. We have a total of 55,156 square feet of riverfront on the property, 10% is 5,515. We're impacting 32, well within the 5,000 at the state level. To mitigate, which is this drawing, originally I had proposed these purple shaded areas, but now we can add the remainder of this area for a total of 19,000 square feet wildflower plantings of the 50-foot buffer. So all of your 50-foot buffer for our property will be wildflowers. And that's where we're at this point. I know I need a few things to finalize the drawing, as in stamps from the engineer, the surveyor. Anything else you think I need to add to this?
Well, so Ken, you brought the information Wednesday afternoon, and it was uploaded to Permitize on Friday. So, you know, I'll have to.
No, it was uploaded 2 weeks earlier, but I left it in the wrong folder, Sonia. It's all right. It's all right. It's neither here nor there.
If you let me finish.
Okay.
I'll need to review that information before the next meeting. Yep, and just to be clear, I know we've talked about this a number of times, but it's not just a rubber stamp from an engineer. The engineer is the person who has the credentials to actually draw all of the grading that's on that plan. Just
it would be Walter Hermano, who works with Frank Riveland all the time. So that would be the team.
making sure that's clear.
Yep, understood.
Okay, thank you, Ken.
Jennifer, and I don't mean to make you speak too much about this, but I know there's been talk about the directional drilling that's going to happen underneath the stream. Do we have any concerns about that? Or are we okay on that at this point?
Until I actually review what they've submitted, I can't really answer that. But usually, as long as they have the exit and entrance pits on the plan, that information is usually adequate.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they are on the plan.
Okay.
Okay then. Any other questions from the commission here? Even though we don't, we haven't had a tremendous amount of time to review the plans. Next meeting we'll get more into it.
Nothing for me.
Okay. Any public comment for 9 Hobart Way? Just a point of information for me, Jennifer, I'm not holding you to this, and I understand that you have to do this. I just want to sort of raise what's going on in my head, because I know there were a lot of questions about the easement. Do we have a better sense now that what they're proposing is allowed within the easement? I know that you haven't reviewed the plans. I'm not going to hold you to it, but initial impressions.
I don't have the easement in front of me.
Right.
But it was about no grading or any other type of work there. So I'd need to see what they're proposing for the wildflower garden and how they're proposing to actually construct it and manage it.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I think it took us a while to get to what that easement was and wasn't. So I think it's for us. One thing I'd like all of us to sort of understand is next time, Jen will give us a summary of what is in the easement as well as a copy of it. I believe we've already seen it somewhere in one of our packets. But if we could all just take a look and make sure that we understand what the proposed work that's being done, that we understand that it's allowed under the easement or not. So that's going to be something for us to consider as we do this. So, okay, so to my other board members, I would just ask that before the next meeting, that's one of the things that we do. It's a question in my mind, so Jennifer, I'm just going to raise the issue at the next meeting.
So I'm sorry, Roy, are we talking about the language of the easement? Does it allow the type of work to be done to the property? Right, because it's an NRT easement, right?
Correct. Well,
Yeah, so they had, I mean, they brought counsel in 2 meetings ago to address that.
No, I know, but I think what was originally being proposed wasn't allowed by the easement.
Okay.
I think they were proposing some grading in there that wouldn't be allowed. I mean, that was my initial off the cuff evaluation of it was that it wasn't allowed. So.
You're absolutely correct on that.
The initial plans had all the grading in the easement. Yes.
But
thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've moved everything out of the easement, and the retaining wall is something that is going to help them do that. They can keep the grading on the property. So, okay, that's it for me. Motion to continue to the 28th.
Second.
Caulfield's Crossman with the second. Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Carol, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Spady, aye.
Al, I need a vote.
Benson, aye.
Thank you. So 5-0 to continue till next meeting. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Okay, so next up is 405 Depot Street. If you recall, and I've got Garrett in here. This was the second piece of property where we issued the certificate of compliance to the first one last week. I think it was at 403 or 401 Depot, and it's time we decided we'll vote them all together. So this is formally on the agenda this time for notice, and so we just want to take another vote to affirm our granting a certificate of compliance for 405 Depot Street. Any questions? Any public comment 405 Depot Street? Seeing none, make a motion to reaffirm our vote of 405 Depot Street.
Spady, second.
Caulfield Spady a second. Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Carol, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Benson, aye.
Spady, aye.
Okay, very good. 5-0. Next up, so there's the subsequent 4 things on the agenda are all related to each other. So if we could sort of work our way through this. So first up, we have a request for a certificate of compliance for 55 Pond Street, Lot 1, and 59 Pond Street, Lot 2. This is an older permit, and I think the only thing that's been done and requested here has been the restoration, some of the restoration. So is there a representative for 55 Pond, the certificate of compliance request? I don't see one. The second, so if we issue this certificate of compliance, it closes out this permit, which goes back to 2012.
Mike O'Shaughnessy has his hand up now.
Yep, I just sort of want to explain what's going on. I'll recognize you in just 1 second, Mike. That if we close this out, the permit from 2012 is closed. We would note that only the restoration was done, that the actual dwellings were not built or any work was done on the dwellings. So I'd be okay with that. But subsequent to this, subsequent on the agenda here is a request to extend the current permit, which was extended initially a couple of different times, last time in 2018. I will let Mike sort of come and I think he might be the proponent for the extension. So let's try and sort of understand what's going on here. Mike, you're here. Can I unmute, turn on your camera?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. Trying to get the video up. With respect to the certificate of compliance, I'm not quite sure why Steve was asking for the whole thing. It should have been a partial certificate of compliance. This permit goes back to 2012, and it was part of when the trustees of reservation took ownership of the Ames estate. Part of the land that was affected by it was being conveyed to the trustees. And as part of what we were doing on the site, had some, I think it was invasive species removal and some restoration work. So the certificate of compliance that is before you is for that work only, which is why it should have only been a partial certificate of compliance. I didn't know Steve had been doing that, but it should have only been a partial certificate of compliance. And we'll see what you guys decide on the next request. So that's what he's trying to get approved right now. And it's all tied to what's going on the next extension request as well.
So why don't, I think rather than sort of take this and decide what to do with the certificate of compliance, because depending on what we do with the extension, it may make more sense to issue a certificate of compliance and close the permit and be done with it, as opposed to issue a partial, and then we'd have to have somebody come back and, if we deny the extension, then somebody come back.
Sure. So on the extension request, it's for both lots. Again, this was approved back in 2012. It was extended by the Permit Extension Act. We were back before you 2-3 years ago, asked to have that extended. It was extended again because of the COVID fiasco. It was set to expire last March. It was extended again. It expires on June 12th. I think I have the 22nd. And we're looking to extend these two permits again, not for 3 years, for a year. And the reason the request is being made is that there are some background conversations about the town or the trustees of reservation buying the property. So in speaking with David Ames, they don't want to go out there and start doing all this work, try to extend it under the terms of the bylaw in the orders of conditions. So I'm actually hoping that the trustees buy it or the town of Easton buy it, because it's a nice parcel of land. And it's consistent with what's going on down there. But in the event that it doesn't come to fruition, we'd like to extend what's there now for another year. And I know Jennifer doesn't like the plans, and I don't necessarily disagree with her. But at the time, there was only a conceptual plan that was being approved. It's the typical little box that you saw on it. Whoever were to build out there, they would most likely be back before you folks anyways, because there'd be a new grading and all that stuff that'd have to be addressed. So that's why we're here before you tonight, to see if we can at least get an extension till next June, a year from now, or a year from when it expires.
So from my perspective, if you don't mind, Jennifer, so from my perspective, I think there's a couple of things we have to get over here, and that is that and I think it's been exhibited a little bit, that there's a problem with the fact that whether or not the applicant's been diligently pursuing the project, right? So, I mean, certainly from the last extension, there's been no activity out there. I mean, the only thing that's been done is some trees were cut down, and probably they were fallen trees more than anything else. Certainly there's been no difference from when I was out there, 3 or 4 years ago, my initial visit to the site. So, I mean, that is one of the requirements under 503.8E under the local bylaw, let alone what's required under the Wetland Protection Act. So can you give me some perspective on that?
Again, I think the fact that there was some discussions going on in the background about the town buying it, I don't think it's a recent vintage. I think they've been out there. I think at the end of the day, the Ames really wanted to go out there and do it. I mean, I know there hasn't been any recent activity, but as I mentioned, I mean, theoretically, we could still go out there next week, start digging up the place and then come back in and ask for another extension. But I don't think that's appropriate given that the town or the trustees may take possession of it or want to buy it. So, I guess I'm looking for some,
sure.
To be honest with you, I guess I'm looking for the commission to kind of skirt over that fact a little bit and look beyond that, given what's going on here.
So what if the town is interested in purchasing the property, what advantage does having an open permit on the piece of property do for the purchase? In fact, in order to convey the purchase, we either have to have a certificate of compliance or an open permit. Does one have greater value over the other?
Well, if the town doesn't buy it or the trustees doesn't buy it and they want to go to develop it is the reason we're asking for it. So we have some rights to move forward under the old permit. If the town were to take ownership of it, or the trustees were to take ownership of it, they would probably want a clean title, and one of the issues would be the open order of conditions, which the certificate of compliance should have been impartial would cover.
So, but here's the question, and maybe we can split the decision here on this a little bit. Here's the issue, though, is that if you were to tell me that someone wanted to build this project, right, I would strongly encourage that that the conditions have changed from 2012 when it was initially issued, to a significant enough degree that a new permit really is a better choice for us as a commission, as opposed to trying to operate under this 2012 permit. Especially as you said, there's a lot of work, design work that would have to go out there anyway. And so certainly my preference would be that if for some reason the town doesn't want the property and someone wants to develop it, that would require a new, I would prefer a new set of permits on this particular piece of property. Now, I would also caution you that just because, like, if we don't grant the extension and somehow the applicant feels like over the next 2 months or 3 months or whatever it is until the permit expires, about a little under 3 months, wants to go out and start, digging the foundation. If you came before us for an extension, that still may not meet the diligently pursue criteria.
I appreciate that, and again, I'm not trying to force this down your throat, Mr. Chairman. That's not my intent. I'm just
I don't believe that you are.
Yeah.
That's why I'm having this frank conversation, right? I mean,
Right.
I don't believe that you are at all. I think you're being open and forthright with us on this about what it is that you need out of this. But my thought process on this, because my understanding is that this town issue will be resolved within the next. It will either be resolved or not, likely within the next 60 to 90 days.
I don't know the state of the conversation, the conversations that are going on it. I'm not part of that discussion.
Right. So, from my perspective, what I think might be the best approach. I really am not in favor of granting this extension, but I'm happy to hear from the rest of the board. Just because of it's been 10 years. There's really been nothing done out there. The conditions have changed, and everything else. But I'm willing to do this, right? I'm willing to issue the partial, so that we can have the title clear enough that if a transaction is to occur, that we've got a title that can clear that, right? And continue this request for an extension till some period of time. Maybe it's after, maybe it's May, maybe it's some other time, where we've given enough time for this transaction to either happen or not happen. And then we'll know the set of circumstances that we need, because we may not need it. I don't want to grant the extension for a year if it's not necessary. I don't want to grant the extension anyway, but I also want to be fair enough to this situation.
Sure, I'd be okay with that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any comments from anybody on the board? Anybody have another opinion? Ben, be interested to see. Mike?
I mean, in my opinion, not knowing much about the procedural history on this one, I mean, and I know real estate's been crazy, but I think coming off of 2 years of COVID, it's hard for me not to think that granting an extension on a project is a reasonable request. That's my gut instinct.
I mean, part of the date, the expiration date they have already is 462 days that come out of COVID. So they get an automatic 462 days extension during COVID time. So that was already added on to their June 12th date or whatever. But I mean, there's arguments to be made that the extension before this probably shouldn't have happened. But the permit is a valid permit, so we'll live with it, and it is what it is. So anybody else?
I'm comfortable with the partial. I think, you said, if you were going to get the full thing, you have to reassess it. It's been too long, but partial for sure.
Anybody other comments? Jennifer, am I okay to issue a partial on this? I can, right?
Yes.
So I think that for the purposes of what we have in front of us, and as it's sort of been described, I think we'll issue a partial for the restoration work that was done. It's probably most of the invasives have come back, but so be it. And that'll get us clear title in case a transaction happens. And then we can let's just extend this to a date in May. So, like 45 days from now, 60 days from now, if something didn't happen, then we can figure out and have this conversation for real.
Fair enough.
Okay, very good. I think that's sort of splitting the middle on this, so we get to the right place for everybody. So, okay, so I'm going to make a motion to, okay. I'm not sure what that means, but.
May 9th would be deadline for whatever information is being submitted for the following meeting.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a date for that meeting?
I was about to look that up, but I think people are faster than me at the moment.
Yeah, that's okay. I know, me too. I can look it up in just 1 second. I actually haven't saved it in my phone. Just give me 1 second here. So any public comment for 55 Pond Street or 59 Pond Street? And I do want one comment I have is it's a beautiful piece of property. So it is just absolutely a beautiful piece of property. Just give me 1 second to try and find this. I don't have to find it. I just have to open it.
Conservation hearing for May 9th has a deadline of May 25th.
So why don't we continue to May? So we'll do, after we do this, we'll continue to May 23rd. But let's just do the partial first, and then we can go from there. So I make a motion to issue a partial certificate of compliance related to the restoration work at 55 Pond, 59 Pond Lot 1 and 2.
80 second.
Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Carroll, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Easton, aye.
Spady, aye.
Okay, so 5-0 for the partial. Mike, if you're okay, I'm gonna continue this request for an extension to May 23rd.
Sounds good.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to extend the request for extension to 55 Pond Street Lot 1 and 2, and 59 Pond Street Lot 2 to May 23rd.
Second.
Caulfield's with Crossman for the second. Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Carroll, aye.
Crossman, aye.
Benson, I.
Speedy, aye.
Thank you. Okay, Mike,
Thanks, guys. Good
appreciate it.
night.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Okay. Next up is the town meeting article submitted to include the WPA exemption in the bylaw. Jennifer, you want to give us a little bit of an overview here?
Sure, there are a number of minor, small projects that Wetland Protection Act has exemptions for, but they are not exempt under the bylaw. Some of them are moving the shed from one side of the yard to the other, repairing or replacing a deck that's more than 50 feet away from a wetland within an existing lawn. So some of these smaller projects would save a lot of people, including us, time and money if they didn't have to apply for those. Some of the things we had talked about previously were maybe there are some projects where we really want it to be an administrative approval, and I could do a site inspection just to make sure there are no wetland violations before it's approved. That would come in the regulation portions. So we just need to go to town meeting to amend the bylaw to allow minor exemptions under the bylaw. That's the first part.
Right. So I think that it was our desire, as we discussed. So part of this is we have to discuss here. We should probably have a vote to recommend this for the town meeting warrant. This is actually on the town meeting warrant. One of the things to understand here is that the bylaws are governed by town meeting. We, the commission, govern the regulations. So we take care of anything to do with the regulations. We can change them. We can create them as long as they're within the guidelines of the bylaws. When we went to discuss this issue about 3 or 4 or 5 months ago, we all were in agreement that we didn't want to see, a permit for a shed that's on level property on a previously disturbed lawn. We didn't want to see a walkway, less than 250 square feet or whatever the heck the number was. All these tiny little things that we felt that Jennifer could clearly take care of by just doing a site visit and making sure everything's copacetic. But we were unable to because our bylaw specifically excludes any exemptions to the bylaw. So that meant that any tiny little project that came before that a homeowner had that came before us, the homeowner had to do. They had to submit plans. They had to submit the applications. Obviously, that took the work of not only the applicant but also the staff. There's just a lot of stuff here that doesn't need to come before. Now, when we get out there where they've got slope or they've got a much bigger project than what's going on, even if it's small, with the conditions, the site conditions would warrant it. Jennifer can sit there and say, no, this doesn't fall into our small project exemptions. You need to come in and file a project. So we still have total control over what's going on out in the town. So I'm in favor of this. I think it's just one of these things that takes a little bit of town resources and puts them towards something that is making a difference as opposed to things that they don't necessarily. I'm not saying we should release and not have a no disturb zone anymore or anything. It's just stuff that's working, and Jennifer can go out and see it and make that decision. And whoever the conservation agent is perfectly capable of making those calls. And if they're not comfortable with it and they know us and they know what we want to see, they can tell them to file a permit, even if an RDA, get it into us, and we can get it straightforward. There's been a couple of projects. Think about a couple of projects in the last year where we've had homeowners submit on by themselves. The agent has helped them a lot to get to that point. And so I just encourage us to think about what's best for this without causing any harm to the wetlands. I mean, this has zero chance for harm to the wetlands to me. Any comments from anybody else?
Yeah, I thought we put a lot of thought into those bylaws when we were originally talking about them, and I know we've seen. I haven't been on here that long, but I've seen a couple of projects where it just hasn't made a whole lot of sense for the folks to be here,
Right.
To be put through. I mean, not that we're too mean of a group, but to be put through a kind of intimidating administrative process for something that really, I don't think makes any impact at all on the wetland. So I'm in favor of these. I think it's a great step.
There's 4 pages of paperwork on moving a shed from one side of the lawn to the other. So yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a sound decision.
More than 4.
On that one in the beginning of the day, there was, well, yeah, maybe more than 4, but yeah, a lot. 37 points.
You just shouldn't have to hire an engineer to move a shed on your property. Well, in the circumstances confined in the new regulations, let's put it that way.
And I did do a fact sheet that we can put on the website and hand out. It was in your packet. If anybody had any comments or edits to that, I can make those changes.
I will take a look at that and give you some feedback. Mike, Al, anything?
I sat through enough of them. I'm thrilled. This is great.
Yeah, on the fact sheet, on page 2, the second paragraph from the bottom, you nicely explain, how that's calculated wetlands violation, but there's no consequences. Would it be worth considering a paragraph before the next paragraph, something on the order, if the Conservation Commission and or the environmental planner noted violations, wetland violations, are not completed by the homeowner within the time frame specified, what's the consequence? Is it fair to put that in the frequently asked?
Well, we could certainly do that. We don't want to scare people away. We're trying to show them that
I'm not
it's
trying to
make
scare
things
them, but
easier for them.
it seems open-ended, that's all.
I mean, if people can think of some language, I'd be happy to put that in there.
Yeah, man, I'll definitely take a look at that because I think that the point Al is making is you sort of have to be transparent to them, right? I mean, I don't want them to feel like, oh, I didn't know there was going to be an enforcement order if I did something. You know what I mean? So,
they'll start ignoring it.
Yeah, and how many times have we had a homeowner in front of us that, where we tried to get an enforcement order moving, and it's taken a lot of cajoling to just get them to do what is necessary to do that. So, and we can do it. I think we want to do it. I think Jennifer's point is try and do it in as soft an approach as possible.
Right. That's why I left
that
blank. That was up to you.
no, it's a good point. I think we just have to figure out how to be as kind as possible with that information without feeling like it's a sledgehammer. I mean, we talk about some of the things that I don't want to use the regulations as a sledgehammer.
Right.
So we try and use them as tools, not the sledgehammer kind, the little digging kind. So to me that's a much better approach. So I think it's a good point, and I think we should probably try and incorporate that. And when I take a look at this, I will do my best. Is there any way you could send that as a Word document, Jennifer?
Assuming the computer is up.
Yes. It doesn't have to be today, but tomorrow or the next day, or the day after. So whenever they come up.
Before we move off the warrant, I know if one other possible suggestion or thing to consider in the jurisdiction section 227.2, it does not reference the area of critical environmental concern. And I wondered why that was left off.
Oh my, that was making me pull out my bylaws.
Yeah.
So 227.2 is beyond the scope of this article. So we've already submitted it and wouldn't be able to add it to this town meeting. But if it's something you want to look at, we can certainly do that for the next one.
It's a generic question, and it can hold till next year without any significant loss. But I wondered, as a point of clarification in the jurisdiction, if in fact it would be worth considering adding.
So I think I have a quasi answer to that. So, but I just want to circle back to it after we take a vote, either to recommend this warrant article or not, and then we can circle back to that because I actually have maybe an answer to that. So any other comments about the warrant article? Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to recommend the warrant article as proposed in the as drafted in the packet.
Maybe a second.
So we need a roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
Benson, I. Benson, I.
Will Spady, aye.
Nate, we lost you. Need an aye from Nate. I need we're taking a recommended vote on the warrant article. You're the
I'm
last
sorry.
vote.
I had to go to the bathroom. I didn't know what proper procedure was when you had to go to the bathroom in a Zoom meeting.
I'll tell you in a
Setting
second.
the video and sound is the right thing to do.
That's definitely right.
Yeah, muting the mic.
So we're on a roll call vote. It's been 4 votes aye on the warrant article so far. You're up.
Crossman, aye.
Okay, so 5-0 recommendation on this. So 2 points of 1 point of information. If we have a situation like that and we want to pause the meeting for a moment, you can request a recess. Okay, and usually we have about a 5-minute recess sometimes. So if that happens and we really do need to take a recess, we can do that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, as far as the area of critical environmental concern, is when we're talking about the jurisdiction, I think that the ACEC is an overlay on top of the jurisdictional areas. So we don't have jurisdiction of everything that occurs within the ACEC. We only have jurisdiction of the wetland resources within the ACEC, and then we have a higher level of burden of proof in an ACEC. So it's one of those things. It's really an overlay on top of our wetland resources, as opposed to a separate resource itself. Hope that made sense. Maybe not. Al will have to have he'll have to have a conversation with me later.
Sure, please.
Okay, so next up is the minutes from 1/24/22. Anybody have any comments? I have none. I will take a motion to approve the minutes as written of 1/24/22.
Maybe a second.
Okay, I guess I'm the motion.
Oh, you want the motion?
So when I say I'll take, just as a procedural thing, when I say I'll take a motion, someone else can actually move the motion. Yeah, I'm not actually making the motion at that point.
Motion to approve the minutes as written on
You can actually just say
1/24/22.
You can actually just say so moved, and that's actually so. Jennifer would appreciate the brevity of things.
Seconded.
So roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Benson, I.
Spady, aye.
Very good. 5-0 for 1/24. Next up are me. So Community Preservation Committee Representative Report. So what we try and do is just for new members at the end of at the meeting following, when we have one of the meetings where one of us is a member, a representative of the commission, on there, try and give you some insight into what's going on. So there is so on the CPC. We're currently lining up all the articles for town meeting. There's 4 or 5 requests for CPA funds to be allocated related to use of those. Most of those are affordable housing and historic at this point. There's some money going to the town hall. There's some money going to recreation for the pickleball courts and Unionville. And so there's actually nothing related currently on the warrant for the conservation open space. I will say that just for record, the large majority of money spent by the CPA has been on open space. So while we have nothing on the warrant this time, I can assure you we've used a large majority of that money up to this point. And that it actually is a significant amount of money, and anybody who's ever interested in what the CPC does, I'm happy to give some background on it, not during a meeting because that'll get us past our 8:30 deadlines. But it is a tremendous amount of value to this town. And so, but it's a great group of people. It's actually a larger board than this. There's 9 members. There's representatives from a wide range of boards plus public members. But there's a couple of historic things. We're going to do a fence down on the corner of, one thing we're working towards is a fence, you know, that old house on the corner of Quanticut and Foundry. It's the Leach House. There's a black iron fence in front of it. You can't imagine what the significance of that black iron fence is highly significant from a historic standpoint. And so there's a project there that's going on in place. So that's really what's going on. There's nothing conservation related here, but there's 5 or 6 projects that are going to come up before the committee. There is potentially one other one that might get in before the warrant is finalized. So, and hopefully we'll know that by April, what's going on there. So, any questions? Okay. The next up is the MBTA Community Zoning Implementation Review Team. Boy, that's a long name. So we've been meeting every 2 weeks on this. This is a new regulation that was implemented earlier this year. It requires communities that are either have the MBTA service or are adjacent to a town that has MBTA service, that's us, of implementing zoning changes that would allow for multifamily building by right. It wouldn't require a special permit or anything like that. So you have to find areas in town where you would allow more densely constructed housing than would normally be allowed under our zoning in this town. So that's something we're working on. We have to submit a plan by the end of May, and as well as some comments by the end of May. I think we have to have our task outline done by the end of March, and then we actually have to submit comments to this by the end of March as well. And then over the next 1 to 2 years, we'll be looking at zoning changes related to this MBTA communities zoning requirement. If we don't do this, we lose a lot of access to a lot of grants. Somewhere in the neighborhood of, we normally get somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000 to $1 million a year in grants related to things we would no longer have access to if we chose not to do this. So it's not insignificant. And next meeting is Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Yeah. So I'll have another one the next time. Next up, chair report. Just one item here. If you guys haven't seen it, the town administrator is putting forth a citizens academy. If you want to learn about how town government works, you guys have a sense of how town government works because you're part of town government. You're employees of the town, and so. But for those people who might be watching this, if you want to get more involved in town government and want to have a better understanding of how it works, there's actually an academy coming up. I think registration closes on March 25th. So please seek it out on the town website. It's been on social media as well. So I encourage you that if you want to get involved, this is a great way to sort of, and you didn't know how, this is a great way to sort of start doing that. I know my own experience with town government was I started showing up at meetings. And so, because I really didn't know how town government worked. So besides town meeting, I always went to town meeting, but showing up at the finance committee or showing up at the audit committee or showing up at any one of these meetings and understanding how the town works. So I encourage anybody who wants to have more information. It's called the Citizen Academy. And once again, I just wanted to tell you that it closes registration for this first session here closes March 25th. Okay. Environmental planner updates.
That's me.
Yes.
58 Mill Street submitted their environmental notification form, and that goes to the state and a number of state agencies, and it's open for public comment. I did a draft letter for you guys to send that was included in your packet. Didn't know if there was anything you wanted to add to that before I sent it out. I just have to add the MIPA number and the review person.
I'm actually, I didn't see it in the packet. Did I miss it?
To Secretary Kathleen Theoharides.
You know, I don't see it. I don't see it in the packet.
I'm looking for it right now too.
Okay, well then.
Where is it on the share drive? I can share the screen.
Sure. Oh, can you get into the shared drive? I tried.
Yes, yes, I'm on Splashtop.
Wow, okay.
Where would I find it?
In the 58 Mill folder. There should be a folder that says MIPA.
Okay, I'm working on that. I'll bring it up in just 1 second.
Thanks. Oh, I tried right before the meeting and I still couldn't get into the town's onto my own computer at work. So it's good to know it's working now.
Anybody bring up the other two letters while we're waiting? So while I'm doing this, Jennifer, you want to start talking about it and then I'll find them?
I actually submitted an expression of interest letter for the next MVP grant round for Sam Wright Field to finish the wetland restoration and joint project with the DPW to replace the culvert on Highland Street, Mulberry Meadow Brook. That actually ends up going down toward Sam Wright Field, but then we saw that the governor put it in the regular budget. So hopefully that passes. There's a number of earmarked projects. If it doesn't, I'll still go forward with the MVP grant, but one letter is just to send a letter of support saying we really would like these two projects to go through. The other letter is about the Public Lands Protection Act. The state has a no net loss policy for conservation property. And so if conservation land were converted to a different use, like a ball field or a school, some examples, then it has a number of steps that it has to go through. You have to get a unanimous vote from the Conservation Commission. You have to go to town meeting and get approval. And then both houses of the legislature have to approve it. You also need to get, you have to replace the property with like and kind property as well. So
the first letter here that I think you should be able to see now is a letter from the commission, written by Jennifer, signed by me. I get all the credit, of just in support of the appropriations for the Sam Wright Field project, and hopefully that makes it through the budget, which gives us access to more money, and all the hard work that we've been doing out there, and the MVP plan and MVP work. So as you can see here, we are writing in support of that specific thing. Jennifer doesn't know how it made it onto the specifically cited, but we're happy that it is. And it is all the good work that we've done over the years, I think, probably gets us to this point. In the PLPA letter is similar in nature. Give me 1 second. It is open here. And we can see here that all the things Jennifer was talking about, just being in support of this preserving open space Public Lands Preservation Act. So, and hopefully sometime soon it gets passed. So, both signed by me. Any questions? Excellent work, Jennifer, for staying on top of that stuff. I really do appreciate it.
Would you like me to share on the screen?
Yes, thank you. If you did find it, thank you. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Anybody else have any comments?
Okay, great. As soon as we get the file number and the correct reviewer's name, I'll change that and send that to Rory to be signed. Thanks. I actually have two things to add. We did get a number of, we get revised plans and a packet from 560 Foundry. They're on the next agenda. I didn't know if you wanted to schedule a site inspection with the commission to look at the property with the revised plans.
What does everybody think about that? I mean, I'm happy to go out there.
I'd like to go.
Okay, do you want me to schedule that with the applicant or with our consultant?
I think just our consultant is fine.
Okay, and then just, if you haven't been on site inspections before, we don't have to post them. It's not a Conservation Commission meeting. You are just there to make observations and take a look at the project and the property. So there's no decision-making during the site inspection. There's discussion as far as, take a look at this area, let's look at the grading, but you wouldn't be making decisions like, oh, we should require this.
Yeah, that kind of deliberation we should stay away from. It's more observational, and you can have conversations about the observations of what's going, look, this is the area where they're gonna, have the stream crossing, or this is the area where they're gonna, daylight the tunnel, the stream. And so those are the type of things. It's all just observations. If you have questions about, explain to me again where the vernal pool is in relation to this. That's all okay. We can't sit there and say, well, I'm really, concerned about the vernal pool. That's not for this meeting. So a site visit is more just a observational time, and so and it's for us to do it together so that the consultant don't have to go out there 4 times, right? So just make a time. Does any specific day work better than everybody? Time of day?
I mean, a weekend would be great. Otherwise, Fridays.
I work midday. I'm just
A weekend
early
would be
morning
good here.
Yeah, I can do any time after 3 during the week or weekend.
Jennifer, I don't know what our options are, so I can work from home most days. Later in the week is better than earlier in the week.
So I will check with our consultant, see what they have available, then I will send all of you an email. Just remember to reply only to me individually, don't reply all. But I'll put that in your email as well, just to remind everybody.
Thank you.
Sure. On the 28th, the proposals for Tufts Farm tenancy will be due. We are supposed to have the review team be me, one person from Conservation and one person from the Agricultural Commission. I had a meeting with the Agricultural Commission last Thursday. There's no one on that commission who feels comfortable reviewing or making a recommendation. And so at the next meeting, I'll just be asking, are there 2 people on the Conservation Commission who would be, comfortable reviewing those proposals? And then if we need to interview people, be available to do some interviews. I can send everybody a copy of the RFP just so you can look at it ahead of time.
Please.
So I don't need an answer today. I just want you to think about, are you interested in doing something?
You can put me on there if you want to.
Thanks. The open house is this Thursday, and I know I have 3 people interested. So they've asked for appointments.
All on Thursday?
Correct. Well, there was one who said, well, can't you do it on Friday?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'll tentatively write it down, but I don't think that's going to be available. And the more I thought about it, that's not available to everybody, so that it wouldn't really be fair. So I do need to call that person back and just say, it wasn't scheduled for that, it wasn't advertised for that, so I really can't do it on Friday.
Okay.
So I need to do that tomorrow. So those 2 things. So the last thing was to do a brief presentation on the Conservation Commission Act. But we couldn't get into the computers today, so I don't have my presentation unless either Tish or
I can share the screen. Yep, I can go over to that and pull it up.
Great, thanks. So I'm planning to do what are called conservation chats, and we have one scheduled for next Monday, and it's just supposed to be 10 slides, a half-hour conversation just to introduce a conservation topic to people, whoever shows up, and just more of a public outreach and education project for us. So I started with Conservation Commission Act, and that'll explain a little bit about how conservation got started in each of the towns and what you actually do and what the act says. Mind you, I haven't been able to look at it all day, so I'm going to be refreshing my memory as I do it. But this is a little test run before next Monday.
Where can I find the PowerPoint version?
So the PowerPoint version. So go to conservation, then you should have a folder that says Jen's blah, 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 blah. Whatever I wrote that down as stuff I was going to transfer from my H drive or something. And then there should be a folder that says presentations.
I can bring up the PDF. If you want.
Yes, I have that file, presentations, and it would be ComCom Basics.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, that's the title of it. So.
Great. So if you go into slideshow, up at the top, yep. Yeah, from beginning. Thank you. Okay, so we'll just talk about the Conservation Commission basics, and that is out of Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 8C. If you go to the next slide, so our organizational structure, this law sets that how conservation commissions are set up. So there could be anywhere from 3 to 7 members. In Easton, you have 5 commissioners. They're residents just with an interest in the environment or related experience or expertise. You don't actually have to have a job in the conservation field. You just need to be interested in it and have the time to be able to donate to attend the meetings. They're appointed by the select board for 3-year terms. We do have 2 associate members who work on trails and scout projects. and typically meet twice a month on Mondays. Occasionally, hopefully you'll do some site inspections together, which will help in your reviewing projects. So the primary sources of our Conservation Commission authority is first the Conservation Commission Act that was adopted in 1957. In 1966, there was a landmark case that allowed towns to come up with their own bylaws. And so that was adopted through the Constitution, the Home Rule Amendment. In 1972, the Wetland Protection Act came into effect. And somewhere in the 80s, it pretty much went from DEP onto the Municipal Conservation Commissions. In 2000, there was the Community Preservation Act, and Rory is our CPC representative. And the last sort of section about Conservation Authority was in 2003, that added the Conservation Commission to the boards who are able to assess a consultant fee in order to review a project. And it's usually about technical assistance that we don't have on the board or for staff. So it's usually stormwater management. So the Conservation Commission Act basically says that the Conservation Commission are the stewards for the municipality's natural resources. Our main focus was for the promotion and development of natural resources and the protection of those natural resources. You had the ability to conduct research on local land areas, coordinate activities with other organizations that were like-minded or other municipal departments. And you could prepare and advertise and print books and pamphlets and educational documents. Most of the Conservation Commission's job has now shifted to Wetland Protection Act, and either Conservation Commission can do some of these projects sort of on the side, or a open space committee is usually formed to do these type of projects. Chapter 40, Section 8C also sets some requirements for the Conservation Commission, that they have to keep records of their meetings, file annual reports. This is actually pretty specific to Conservation Commissions. You can receive gifts and donations and can purchase land. Most of the time, town property is owned by the select board. The Conservation Commission and the Water Department, I think, might be the only two municipal boards that can have property outright. Otherwise, land is managed by the Conservation Commission or managed by a highway or the Recreation Department. The Conservation Commission can adopt their own rules for conservation property. And a lot of commissions do set rules and regulations, what is allowed and what's prohibited on conservation property. And it's a really good idea to include that list of rules and regulations at each trailhead, just so everyone knows what's required. It's something easily seen. Most people aren't going to go to the website to see what they can and can't do on town property. And we can have a separate conservation fund to use for purchasing property, for appraisals, for doing some of the research that you're allowed to do under this act. Go to the next. Thanks. Another big portion of Chapter 40, Section 8C is the Conservation Commission's requirement to create and implement an open space and recreation plan. This plan is, as you can see, open space and recreation. So we're trying to get the two municipal boards together to work on projects that are beneficial to the town. The open space plan is approved by the Division of Conservation Services. That's a branch of Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. Now, it used to be a 5-year plan. Now it is a 7-year plan. And it is quite extensive. It could be 300 pages or more. It's basically the town's book report. right? It's got everything in it: history, geography, population pyramids, anything you want to know about geology, vegetation, fisheries, wildlife. It also lists environmental challenges, so places where there have been oil spills, places where maybe there's a Superfund site in town, or it could bring up things like damage from ATV, erosion and sedimentation into wetlands or water bodies. It could talk about polluted water, and even things like diseases from ticks and mosquitoes. There's a requirement for an inventory of all town property, and it's supposed to say, you know, who the manager of that property is, roughly where it is, if there's parking, if it's open to the public. And then through a robust public process, you come up with action items and goals, and it's mostly goals for the next 7 years. What do we want to look toward in the next 7 years? What do we think is important? What do we want to preserve? Are there types of projects that we really want to take on? Maybe there's a rail trail in town, or we want to have much better wayfinding, so people know where they can go to conservation property, where they can park, if there's trail maps. And then the Conservation Commission would also be working toward implementing all of the goals and objectives of the open space plan. So while we're still talking about the open space plan, there is a difference between passive recreation and active recreation. Sometimes the two get a little bit muddied, but passive recreation is usually something that would be under the Conservation Commission. It's an activity that can happen pretty naturally. There's not a scorekeeper. You don't keep time for like a pickup game of basketball, for example. It's usually hiking or biking. It's not motorized. A lot of canoeing, fishing, horseback riding, nature study are all examples of typical passive recreation. Active recreation is usually something that's done by the recreation department. And so those are playgrounds, baseball fields where there is a timed, not timed, but someone keeping score. They have referees. There are lines on the field to tell people when they're in and out of bounds. It's more formal. Things that are more active, anything motorized, those are all active recreation activities. And so there is a difference between something that's managed by the Conservation Commission and something that's managed by the Recreation Commission. Go to the next one. Thanks. Then in the 80s, they decided, whoa, conservation commissions have the staff to take care of Wetland Protection Act. And so they then became the entity that would enforce and administer the Wetland Protection Act, which is a legislative pre-construction review of any activities within 100 feet of a wetland or 200 feet of a perennial river or within another resource area, if you're actually in the wetland or in the water body or in the riverfront area. The Conservation Commission is just reviewing projects for compliance with the state law. We even heard it tonight. Someone said, Jennifer doesn't like this plan. So our job is not about liking a project or a particular individual. Our job is to determine if the project meets the regulatory requirements. So the commission can approve conditions, or they can a project with conditions, or they can deny a project for two reasons: if they don't meet the performance standards, and if the application lacks information. So if they haven't identified the wetland resource areas properly, if they haven't fully described how the project might impact a wetland area, and the commission has asked for certain information, like stormwater management, if that information is not received and it is critical to the decision making, the commission can deny that project. And sometimes they do site inspections to review a project area. They also issue the permits and monitor the construction for compliance with the permit. And this is something that's very important. The Conservation Commission is not an anti-development entity. The Conservation Commission is not here to stop development. It's to make sure it's in compliance with the law, and the goal is for balanced development. So the home rule petition, that is when the Conservation Commission can adopt a local wetland bylaw and the regulations. And so the bylaw is adopted at town meeting. The regulations are drafted and adopted by the Conservation Commission. To be an effective wetland bylaw and regulations, they have to be more stringent or more detailed than the state law. If the bylaw says the exact same thing as the state law, then it's not a decision that could be upheld in a court or under an appeal. And so sometimes they have different types of wetlands that are protected or different requirements that will show that a project won't have a negative impact. But it is still a pre-construction review of all projects. So we can also talk about what is the difference between conservation land and wetlands. And we hear this pretty often. Can I build this? I think it's in conservation land. The conservation land means that the Conservation Commission actually has the deed to the property. They are the owners of the property and they manage the land. The wetland is the physical feature that has the, sorry, I just have to move this for a second. It's the physical features where the land is subject to a law, the Wetland Protection Act or the local bylaw. So it would have hydrology, wetland plants, or wetland soils. Looks like I didn't put a whole lot in here about Community Preservation Act. So we'll have to add a little bit more here, but the Conservation Commission representative is a required member of the CPC. And I'll have to get Rory to help me fill in a little bit more on that slide. Town I came from, we didn't have CPC, so I didn't get involved that much. But it looks like the end of the presentation.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. I think it's a great start to this, and I think that one of the things that we've always strived for is that educational purpose of what we do, and I think it's important that townspeople understand what we're about. And as you said, it's we're not anti-development. We're just trying to stick to the rules and make sure that whatever happens is fair to all parties, including the other town residents of town. Because that's the reason why we have a bylaw, is to protect the values of the wetlands. It obviously has a tremendous amount of values, and some of the things we'll probably talk about in the next year or so is even just talking about how do we implement climate change protection into our regulations and bylaws, so that we can start using that as a consideration as we look at these projects to ensure that we have proper flood control and everything else that's going on. And so I think those are very important. One of the things that I remember when I first started doing this, I actually wrote it down. It's in the, if you guys don't know, I have this like binder of the bylaws and the regulations. It's all marked up with all sorts of tabs and stuff. But in the front of it, it has a note that I wrote to myself: maintain a proportion between property rights and wetlands protection, and be reasonable and fair. So, I mean, that's a note that's in the beginning of all these regulations. So while all these regulations are here, you sort of have to step back and say, how do I apply these in a reasonable and fair manner? Understanding that the residents of the town also have a say and a value in what's going on in the town. And that's why the wetland bylaw, the town wetland bylaw, exists. Because the town felt it was important enough to implement these things and valued what that meant to everyone in the town, not just the one applicant. So, and people who've been on this board long enough understand that we try and find how to get to the answer within the regulations. You can't stomp all over them and ignore them, but usually there's a way to get to it if everyone remains flexible. Also understanding it's not always our job to get them there. I mean, they have to get there themselves. And we can provide them with guidance and say, we don't like that part, you need to change it, come back with a different solution. And sometimes they do. And, there's been some things right in front of us recently that have gotten us, a better project. I mean, that's really what, at the end of the day, I mean, we're trying to get a better project out of these. Better from the sense of, more in lines with protecting the wetlands as we are instructed to do. So, I think that's the approach that we want to take here. So, sorry for the extraneous information.
I might make the last slide a Mythbusters.
Okay.
I might add that.
Excellent.
But
Yeah.
if anyone has questions or anything they think should be added to that, please let me know, because I'll be doing that Monday night, or whoever signs up for it.
So one thing is if there's a social media post or anything along those lines, those of us that are on social media, if we could try and share that information just to get it out to the public. There's some towns groups around that either, certainly people in my family are members of, that we could probably try and share that stuff. I don't know. I'm not on very often, so someone would have to tell me that there was something for me to go look for it. So I'm happy to, if we can get a post up.
Only in the crier. I don't.
So if we can, so I don't know if someone can get a Facebook post up for us. And I know that's not your thing, Jennifer, but feel free to get somebody to put a Facebook post up for us that we can, once we get it up, we can get it shared. You might actually get, some more people to attend and get a better understanding of it. So I think that's it for me. Anybody else? There was one other thing, but I'm gonna let it go here. So, but anybody else have any comments before we close? Okay. Motion to adjourn.
A second.
Caulfield, Spady, a second. Roll call vote. Caulfield's aye.
Carol, aye.
Rossman, aye.
Vincent, aye.
Spady, aye.
Thank you all.
Thank
Here we
you.
go.